This week on the Media Boss Podcast.
So here's the trick to be the best networker. Don't be good at anything else. Because being good at other things takes up your networking time.
Takes up my network.
Yeah. So by not having any other marketable skills, I can be a great networker. It's sort of what.
The Media Boss Podcast. I am Dr. Barrett Matthews, and I am glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here too. But let me tell you about the Media Boss Podcast. If you are here for the first time, what I want to let you know about is this podcast is for you only if you are someone that wants to control your own media. What we have found out is that there are so many people out there who are running businesses with speakers, with coaches, so forth, so on. They are using social media, internet media, broadcast media, whatever, but they're not controlling it and they're not expanding it. What we want to do is make sure that you are able to expand your media so it captures people from all over the world so that they know where you are and how to find you and what to do with you. So that's what the Media Boss Podcast is for. I bring people on here who are using media and who are controlling their own media so they can show you what to do and how it's affecting their business as well. So what I want you to do right now, though, is share. Let everyone know you're listening or watching the Media Boss Podcast. Let everyone know that. And of course, I know you've downloaded yourself. So make sure that you tell all your friends to download this podcast as well, because we want to have as many people in our community as possible. So with that being said, I want to take you to the first segment we do on the Media Boss Podcast, which is called the Media Minute. And with the Media Minute, I let you know something a little bit about the media that you may or may not have known before that can benefit you, or you can just take it and say, interesting. So today, we're going to talk about something I found out, and that's from an article I read from TubeFilter from a guy named James Hill, and it says that Spotify says that podcasts will generate more profit than music, but not for now, because guess what? Spotify says they're losing money on podcasts. That's right. Spotify said during 2022, this year, right now, they said they have a negative 57% margin, meaning that they spent 57% more on podcasts than they made in return. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Because see, here's the thing. When it talks about music, they make 40 to 50% profit. Wow. So what are they going to do about that? Well, they said right now, it looks bleak as far as podcasts, but they expected in the next 5 years to pick up. They said they expected to pick up 30 to 35%, and it's going to overtake music, but not right now. So if you're someone who's thinking about doing a podcast, you're wondering, wow, should I do it? Yeah, you should do it because it's going to pick up. That's from Spotify. Now, the reason they say it dropped off like that is because they spent a lot of money out. Remember, they paid out billions of dollars, especially to Joe Rogan, right? So they spent a lot of money. And then they bought Gimlet, they bought Anchor and so forth. They spent out a lot of money, and now they just got to get in the process of recouping it. And it's going to take some time. So what they're saying right now is that podcasts are not bringing them a lot of money right now, but they expect it to do so in the future. So that is your Media Minute for today. Now, let me tell you something about the guest we have for today. This guy and I have become fast friends. I mean, fast friends. We just met recently, but we're really getting to know him. He is just the man you want to know. But let me tell you something. You ever heard that rap lyric which started out at nothing and now we're here? Well, let me tell you, this man went from zero of a network, as far as the network of people to work with, and now he is probably the most well-connected man. And he did that in a year, and he actually did it twice. He also went from zero to $6,000 in monthly recurring, you hear that word? Recurring revenue in just 5 months. And he's published over 750 podcast episodes. Do you think he's doing some things? Do you think he's doing something? I think he's doing something. He also has a book. He has streaming show. He has 2 podcasts. So just so you know, the man is doing a lot. And I want to let you in on a little secret. He knows a guy. That's right. He knows a guy. So if you need something, he's the one to talk to because he knows a guy. Because guess what? He is the guy who knows a guy. So I want to bring to the podcast right now none other than my friend, Mr. Michael Whitehouse. Michael, welcome to the Media Boss Podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. That is quite an introduction.
Well, you're quite a guy.
I can't wait to hear what I have to say. That sounds great.
It's funny that you said that, because I tell people when they ask me to speak, they say, "Do you have a bio?" I said, "I hate bios." Because the bio makes me sound like someone I'm not.
But I was listening to the bio and be like, wow, that guest sounds great. Is he on after me? Because I want to hear,
right.
Oh, that is me.
Right, exactly.
Boy, I got a lot to live up to. Okay.
And if you notice, that's why I didn't ask you for a bio. I asked you just for a few things about you, and I'll just do the rest, because I'm like, I hate, and also when you're reading a bio, it sounds like you're reading a bio. And I didn't want that to come on. You deserve more than that. So Michael, I got to ask you, the guy who knows the guy, where did that come from?
So that is somewhat lost history. I think it was my mother's idea. So it came from the book. So in 2014, I moved to Groton, Connecticut, knowing nobody, as you said, from zero to networking guy. And I knew where networking happened, but not how. I knew it happened at networking events. So I started going to all the networking events I could. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was ignorance on fire. I was going to every event I could. I went to every business after hours, before hours, every ribbon cutting, hair cutting, line cutting. I would have shown up to the opening of an envelope. If there were people getting together, I was there. I was networking. And I discovered within about a year, I was making some pretty significant connections. The owner of this to the mayor of that to the executive director of this. Yeah. And people I would have assumed, you assume that people of certain stature all know each other, and they don't. So I was making these connections. And at the time, I worked a series of jobs because I have a bit of ADHD, kind of like I have a bit of gray hair. And so I did a number of different things. I've since embraced my ADHD, and that's what enables me to do what I do.
Have you embraced the gray hair?
I embraced the gray hair as well. The gray hair and the ADHD combined have helped me build my network and get this broad base of experience. But the book came out of, I was working at the time for a local printing company, selling for them. And people just saw me as, they're a business card salesman. And I'm like, I have 15 years of marketing experience. I got this network, got all this, and nobody sees me as anything other than a business card salesman. So I thought, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book about all this stuff I've done and how to do this. I knew it was replicable. I wasn't some networking wizard. I just kind of did a thing over and over again, and something happened. So I said, I'm going to write a book about this. And that way I'll be an author. So I can put, author on my background here. And I wrote the book. Ironically, before the book came out, I got hired as a marketing manager, a much better title than salesman. But I still wanted to put the book out, and I was trying to come up with a name for the book. And I believe it was my mother who suggested, what would have called The Guy Who Knows a Guy? Because it's kind of got that Northeast feel of like, hey, I got a guy who knows a guy. Guy knows a guy. Like,
I hope you gave her a cut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've sold all of 80 copies that I've gotten paid for. So a cut of that book would be like $100. But the value in the book wasn't in the $4 per book that Amazon gives me. The value in the book has been using it as a tool, so I could give it to people. I can send it to people. You go on guyknowsaguy.com, you put your email in, you get an ebook, you get an electronic version of the book. Yeah. So, but that kind of was the starting point, and it gave me a brand and a brand image, and from there I kind of built into everything else. And then came pandemic times, and as you said, I went from zero to networker twice, because once I went online, I joined this entirely new community.
There you go.
Who I didn't know anyone in. So started from scratch. Again, I knew a little bit more this time, applied the same strategies that worked in person, and now I've managed to build it into a business, and now I make introductions for other people. That's what they pay me for.
And he's very good at it, guys. And I'm speaking as someone who he's done this for, so he's very good at it. And what's cool though is what you brought up there, the book and the digital copy of the book. And it's something that a lot of people don't really think about, but your book is media. Yep. That is media. And I like what you said there, because a lot of people, well, let me just tell you, sir, when I wrote my first book, the gentleman asked me, he said, he was the guy who's going to help me with the publishing. And he said, why did you write this book? And I said, well, because I have a message. I think people need to learn some of these things that I want to teach. He said, good. Because I was hoping you weren't going to say you did it because you wanted to make a lot of money. I mean, don't you agree? I think a lot of people go into writing books and they think, oh, I'm going to make so much money off of this. And,
yeah. Well, and the thing I'd say about writing a book for most people, now there are some people, if your strategy is that you're trying to sell 100,000 copies, I actually just talked to somebody who will probably become a client, who he has a business where he knows how to do the whole strategy. He'll build the community and the online community and the followership and get the Amazon launch. And, he'll get you to sell 20,000 copies and really push it out there, which is great. And if you want to do that,
then people do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to do that, reach out to me, because I've got a client who's
the guy
for you. But at the same time, if, for most people, especially in the coaching space, they don't need 1,000 clients. They couldn't take 1,000 clients unless you're scaled to that level. A lot of coaches are doing one-on-one and maybe group classes. Most coaches have a capacity of 20, maybe 30 clients. Well, that means that the value of the book there is you talk to someone who's maybe in your target market, you mail them a copy of your book. I recommend mailing a physical copy of the book.
Yeah.
And then they're going to read it because you just went to the trouble to mail them a book. And they're like, wow, you mailed me a book. I should at least read some of this. And usually the first chapter of your book is your story. It's where you came from and who you are and kind of the big picture story. And then you dive into whatever beyond that.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they have now read your book, even if they only read 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Now you're an author to them.
Exactly.
They've taken the time to read the depth of your story and where you came from and what you're about. And now the relationship is deeper through that. And this is the important thing is to know what your strategy is. If you need 20 clients, you don't have to sell 10,000 books.
No.
It won't do you any good. You need to mail out 30 books if you want 20 clients. So know what it's for and where to apply it.
That's brilliant. I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself. I literally am going to speak at a conference very soon from my book. And I've only met the person who's putting on the conference, but she made sure that everyone has a copy of my book. But I'm going to speak with these people, and of course, now they feel a connection to me, and I can actually talk to them about some of my other products, services, and so on. But it's not about the book making me money directly, and I like how you put that. That was very good. Now, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break here because I got so much I want to talk to Michael about, because he does a lot. So I got to talk to him, and he knows a guy. So guys, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stay right there. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Don't move a muscle. We're going to be right back with more of the Media Boss podcast and more of Michael Whitehouse. So stay right there. We'll be right back. How are you going to learn everything you need to know about starting a podcast? Well, at the Create Your Podcast Weekend, we put it all in 2 days and help you get your podcast going by next week. That's right, by next week. All you have to do is come to the Create Your Podcast Weekend and let us show you how to get your podcast up and running. We will show you how to attract listeners. We will show you how to get people to pay you for your products and services. What products and services? The products and services we show you how to create, all at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. All you have to do is go to createyourpodcastweekend.com and get registered today. And we have special bonuses. Some of you will even get us to give you the equipment to start your podcast. That's right. We're going to give some of you the podcasting equipment to get started. Go to createyourpodcastweekend.com. That's createyourpodcastweekend.com and get started on your podcast by next week. Starting a podcast can be a daunting task. There's a lot that goes into it, and you're probably wondering if you're able to handle it. Well, why don't you just take 2 days and let us teach you how to do it at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. That's right. We're going to show you all the aspects of how to start your podcast, how to keep your podcast going, how to attract listeners, and how to make money with your podcast. CreateYourPodcastWeekend.com. Get registered right now. Welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews. Guys, if you haven't shared this, share this podcast. You're missing out if you haven't done that. Let everyone else know what you're doing. So right now, I have with me. He didn't go anywhere. He's right here. That's Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy. So we were just talking about his book, which is one form of media that he puts out there. But Michael, you have a podcast or 2 podcasts. So tell us about them. 3? Oh my God, I'm a slacker.
I have 3 and I'm launching another one, but I'm actually, one of them is probably ending for the next one start. So I had an interview podcast, the Guy Knows a Guy podcast, which, I kind of dabbled into and didn't really do much. I only had 165 episodes. But it was a platform that I used to interview people and make connections. Mm-hmm. And I found the challenge with an interview podcast is getting people to listen to it, because it's going to be different each time depending on the guest. So if you don't know the guest, well, the chance that you're going to know 2 of my guests in a row is kind of small. So it was a bit of a marketing challenge, especially when I kind of sort of lost focus into the 4th season. But I also have some shorter form podcasts, which I found to have really gotten traction. The first was Morning Motivation. And I started this, originally it was going to be a 30-day project, and it caught fire. I tried to stop it, and people emailed me and be like, I was listening to that. Turn it back on. So every morning, 5 minutes or less, I get some royalty-free music and I say something motivational. And sometimes it's more tactical. Sometimes it's more just kind of like, rah, rah. I try to never be like, you're the greatest in the world, because you hear that and that you repel that, but because it's obviously not true. Like, you're the best. Am I really? But I talk about, your internal greatness. I talk about different things that will drive you in the day. And I started because I couldn't find anything like it. I couldn't find something that wasn't an interview or something in depth. I just wanted that like quick hit. You're lying in bed, you're like, oh, I got to get up. Play. All right, Michael, I'm ready to get up. Let's go. So that's, I think I'm putting out the 545th or 554th episode today. As we talk, well, when you do a daily podcast, the numbers rack up pretty quick. And that's gotten some pretty decent traction without having a really good strategy for it. It's gotten around. And I've also launched a Power 5 podcast, which is answering business questions in 5 minutes or less, because my ADD superpower is I know a little about a lot. So I got a 5-minute answer for most questions. 50 minutes? No, I wouldn't go that deep in most topics except networking. But 5 minutes, I got 5 minutes on sales. I got 5 minutes on social media. I got 5 minutes on accounting. I got 5 minutes on taxes. So I have people send me questions, and I answer those questions and give, because usually you don't need a 5-hour answer. Often it's, what social media platform should I start with? You don't need a 5-hour answer. You need who is TikTok for, who's Instagram for, who's YouTube for, who's, that kind of thing. And you can do that in 5 minutes. So that's that just started. It hasn't quite gotten traction yet, but
I like that.
I think it's going to pick up. And the podcast I'm launching is the Neurodiversity Superpowers podcast, because I have met a lot of people in entrepreneurship who are successful not in spite of, but because of their neurodiversity, their disability. And I put that in big quotes because a lot of these people, if they weren't, and I finally figured out I'm in that group. If I didn't have ADHD, I wouldn't be the guy who knows a guy. I'd be the guy who works in an office somewhere. I'd be probably an economist, maybe a marketing guy, like working for some big company. But I got ADHD, and that allows me to do what I do. I know people who, if they didn't have autism, they would not be as successful as they are. They wouldn't be a tenth as successful as they are, because the autism gives them the special tools that nobody else has.
It is a superpower,
Same thing with dyslexia. Same thing with all kinds of other things that are labeled as disabilities. And I think it's important to share that message. It doesn't seem like too many other people are sharing it. Now I looked around, I'm like, oh, this is not a narrative a lot of people are doing. I guess I've got a message other people don't have. I should probably share it. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm also developing a signature speech around that topic, keynote speech around that. So if someone in the audience hears that and says neurodiversity superpowers, my audience needs to hear about that. Call this guy. I want to come talk about it.
That's good. First of all, congratulations on that. That's smart. I like that. I like that. Now you have a streaming show as well, huh? I
do. Yes, I have the Power Lunch live show, which I used to call the Power Lunch Live podcast, but it's not technically a podcast. And that show came about because of the problem I mentioned in my previous interview show is it sort of lost focus. I'd meet people like, oh, you're interesting, I should put you on the show. You're interesting, I should put you on the show. But then when someone says, so what's your show about? I'm like, interesting people, I guess.
Yeah.
So it lost that focus. And I was spending hours a week doing the interviews and then post-producing them and uploading them. And I'm like, I can't do more hours. I'm already doing 3 interviews a week and I'm booked out 2 months. So I thought, what if I did a live streaming show? So there's no post-production. Once I hit end, it's there, it's uploaded automatically. Yeah. And I could open the doors wider. Anyone who seems interesting, I can bring them on the show and we'll see how it goes. And what I do, I like to say I have 2 producers on the show. I used to have 1 producer, but then it got bigger and I had to get a second producer. So the first producer was Serendipity. And the second producer is Random Happenstance. So now the 2 of them, Serendipity and Random Happenstance, collaborate to make the show work. People, they apply to be on the show. I look at what they put in their bio, what they want to talk about. If it seems pretty interesting, I put them in, and I put them into whatever the first available date is that they offered that I have an opening, which means it's basically completely random who ends up on the show. And it's amazing the themes that the universe puts on my show. The show I just recorded today, we had one person who was in Nigeria, from Nigeria, and one person who used to be the Minister of Environment from Rwanda who now lives in Tennessee.
Wow.
By complete coincidence, they were on the show at the same time.
So both of them.
Yeah, I'll be happy to introduce you to both of them.
I know a guy. So.
Yeah, but it's amazing. And that's the thing I found. I'm 6 months in now doing this. I've never had a show where the lineup was like, oh, why are these people on the same show? And the other thing is some guests are stronger than others in terms of carrying the story. But what happens is I find weak guests tend to be quieter. So sometimes we have, I had a guest once, so I think said 2 sentences the entire show.
I've had that.
That's fine. So it ranges from sometimes more of like just an interview type format, and sometimes these amazing conversations because people from different backgrounds coming together, and the show is super simple to run. So that's cool. It was and I put it together because I'm like, this is too hard. I want something easier. What's an easier path? And
I heard that Serendipity and Random Happenstance do great work together. So
yes, they're excellent coworkers.
I'm sure. So here's the thing that you obviously have, and I want everybody to pay attention to this. He's got the written media. He's got the video media where he's got a streaming show. He's got the audio media with his podcast. He's got social media going. How have you felt that having all those forms of media working simultaneously have benefited your business?
It's hard to say with the business specifically in terms of like the people who are actually paying me. But what they're paying me for is my network.
Well, yeah.
What it does benefit is the network, because I'll get on a call with somebody. And sometimes I don't have anything to compare it to. Like I don't have a version of me that has no social media. But they'll get on a call with me and they'll sometimes say, yeah, I checked out your podcast, or I've been reading your articles on LinkedIn, or
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Watch this show. And so there's that credibility. The other thing that happens is I have met a lot of people through the shows, the interview shows, obviously not the solo shows.
Yeah.
I don't meet a lot of people through the solo show. Although for the solo show, it's set up so you can sign up to get email reminders, which then puts you on my email list. And I have had people sign up for the morning motivation email list. And that then led to them reaching out to me or reaching out or to a conversation in some way. So a lot of it is there are just different ways for me to be out there in the world and making contacts, and none of them have massive followings. So it's not like I'm a huge celebrity, but it puts out all that content so people can get into my ecosystem. You could spend legitimately probably 2 or 3 hours a week in my ecosystem consuming new content of various kinds, especially if you go back to the back catalog of the interview podcasts and whatnot. So there's a lot out there. So if someone's like, I want to know more about this guy, well, they could go listen to another interview, or watch another podcast, or go on YouTube and watch a video I made, or a Facebook Live, or TikTok, or whatever. Nobody looks at me and says, but what's he really like?
Right.
It's all out.
And that's cool. So you have built your brand, and your brand is speaking for you right now. And the thing is, what you've done by encapsulating all those different forms of media, you've made yourself someone omnipresent, because it's kind of hard for people to ignore you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you're everywhere. Now, I tell you, I'm feeling kind of bad about myself right now, because I was always, I still am to a degree, the guy that everyone calls, "Hey Barry, do you know someone that does it?" But I'm nowhere near what you do.
Well, so here's the trick to be the best networker. Don't be good at anything else, because being good at other things takes up your networking time.
Takes up my network.
Yeah. So by not having any other marketable skills, I can be a great networker. It's sort of what, but in seriousness, in terms of the neurodiversity superpowers, it's that same idea. Most people are sort of in the middle, maybe they're on a 1 to 10 scale, they're between a 3 and a 7 on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas by being spiky, if I'm a 1 in some things and a 10 in others, well, so I'm a very low in a lot of different things. So I remember I meet people who are graphic designers, or who were authors, podcasters, coaches, accountants, whatever. They had some marketable skill.
Yeah.
And I would talk to them, and I realized, if I had your marketable skill with my networking skill, I'd make a boatload of money. But the only skill I have is this networking thing. And the thing about networking, until I figured out how to build a business around it, is the way it works normally is you have a business, like, say, consulting on getting into the media. Mm-hmm. So you help someone out, you make an introduction, and they say, well, how can I help you? And you're going to say, well, I'm looking to meet people who want to build their media presence or whatever. Yeah. And they say, oh yeah, I know someone. And since you helped me out, I'll introduce you to somebody who might be a client. Because I'm more hesitant to make prospect introductions than partnership introductions. Because that means there's going to be some kind of pitch happening. And if you don't do it well, I look bad. So I'm hesitant about those. The problem is that there was no way to reciprocate with me. I'd help people out. I'd get them clients. I'd hook them up with jobs, whatever. And they'd be like, how can I help you? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Until I finally realized, and credit to Phil Paluccio is the one who told me this. He said, Michael, some people get paid to make introductions. And I said, what? Tell me more. And I started mentioning that to some other people, and they're like, oh, but I would totally pay you $1,000 a month to make introduction. I don't have time to go out to these events. I don't have time to do all the one-to-ones. If you'll sift them for me, if you'll curate for me and just introduce me to 3, 4, 5, 6 people a month who are people I could potentially partner with, or people I need to know, no problem. I'll hire you in a second. And I'm like, a second? Here's the link. And they're like, click, done. I'm like, wow, you did hire me in a second. Okay, yeah, let's do this. And a business was born.
And then, wow, amazing. And like I said, I'm such a slacker on that. So,
but I couldn't consult on building a media presence.
I get it, but I hear it all the time from people. You see what I'm saying? It's like, hey, Barry, do you know somebody? Do you know somebody? And see, you know this, because you start to feel the pressure. Okay, I got to find someone now.
So what I realized, and so I used to be, when someone comes to me like, okay, I have a mission. The universe has sent me a mission to find them a person. And then I professionalized it. Like, now this is my business. Right. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, do you know somebody? And if I do, I'll be like, yeah, I do. Here, let me send you a quick, because, sending a Facebook message through a Facebook message, LinkedIn message, email, whatever, takes a minute, 2 minutes. So yeah, I'll shoot off boom, here's the introduction. Here you go. If I don't, I'll say, sorry, I don't know anyone off the top of my head. End of the conversation. If I'm going to be digging, that costs money.
That costs more.
Time costs money. Energy costs money. Connections don't cost money. Connections are great. And here's the thing, and actually a story about why it's great to make connections. Connections can return value, because I had someone come to me, and there's a piece of property they're trying to buy. It's kind of a funky property with a rental, and they're gonna live on it. And it's got a lot of land, so it's not a rocket mortgage kind of mortgage. It's something you really need someone who's going to put the time in, who knows what they're doing. And so I reached out to someone I knew at a local financial institution and said, hey, I got someone. I think this is doable, but they need someone who's really going to put the time in. Who's on your team that I should send them to? And so they obviously sent the person. I made that connection. And they said, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Can we get on a call and catch up? And I was like, sure, yeah, we should definitely do that. And during the course of the call, they, completely out of the blue, like I'm not there looking for business, trying to say, how can I help you? How can you help me? Introductions, whatever. I was kind of poke around, see if they might know some speaking opportunities for me.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think you could help this person on my team develop their network and, develop more referral partners and build their network out. After we got the call, you could email me, like, what would that look like price wise and how we'd set that up. I think that's something we want to do. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, I can do that. But this came out of helping a friend.
Yeah.
There was no expectation that any money would come my way.
Right.
I mean, I kind of really wanted to get this property because it's relatively close to me and super cool. So there's that. Like, it serving them serves me because they're my friend and I'm going to get to hang out in this cool property. But that was the best I was hoping out of it, was helping a friend who would then let me hang out on their cool property. But I do this all the time, that someone says, hey, do you know a whatever? And sometimes I know someone I have an affiliate arrangement with. So yes, I do make the connection. I get 10% and there we go. But very often not. And, an introduction is so easy to make and creates so much value for everyone involved. And sometimes it's introduction to someone I haven't talked to in 6 months. And it reignites a relationship, because if I meet 8 to 10, 12, 20 people a week, I don't remember them all.
No.
And they don't all remember me.
Of course not.
But those introductions, they revive those connections and bring things back. And because sometimes reawaken an opportunity that that had gone dormant. And so it's good for me to make introductions for other people.
It definitely is. So Michael, before I let you go, I want to make sure that we let everyone know what you have going on. So let everyone know how they can get in touch with you and what things you may be promoting yourself.
Absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is to go to guywhoknowsaguy.com. And there are 3 things there's a whole bunch of things I can do there, because my website is basically a giant pile of spaghetti of things I put on there. But right up there at the top, there's 3 things that you might want to do. One is, if they put their email address in, they will get the ebook of The Guy Who Knows a Guy. And if they then ask nicely, they will get the audiobook of The Guy Who Knows a Guy for free. I just asked them to reply to the email to ask for it, because that then tells the email system that they actually do like me. They can also sign up to drop by one of my open virtual coffees, because I got so busy I couldn't accommodate every one-to-one people wanted to have. So I made an open virtual coffee. Anyone can drop in any Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern and meet me and whoever happened to drop in. Coffee optional, but it's a good place to connect. Or if they hear about Networking Concierge and say, I need someone to network for me and I'd like to hire that, there is a button to get on my calendar to talk about business. But unless people ask me about it, I don't pitch my services, because I don't need to. People find out what I do and they say they want it, we do business. If they don't, we don't do business, and that's cool too.
He's telling the truth, guys. And let me tell you, he just increased my value. You know why? Because now I'm the guy that knows a guy. So, hey, so I'm the guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. So, hey, it works for me. He just increased my value. So, Michael, thanks a lot for being on the Media Boss podcast, buddy. I appreciate you so much. You know, you're welcome anytime. And we will definitely be talking very, very soon. So thank you so much, my friend.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So, guys, what I want to do right now is give you also a gift from me. As Michael just showed you what you can do to become a part of his community, I want to make sure I give you guys something. And that is my training, my complimentary training on 5 ways to paying clients. Well, how do you get more paying clients? What do? You go to www.5waystoPayingClients.com. How simple is that? 5waystoPayingClients.com. Go check out my complimentary training. I can't say it, I'm tongue twisted. But 5waystoPayingClients.com. Go there right now. Make sure that you get that training and learn how to get more paying clients for your business. What I'm going to do right now is take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get Media Boss out on this show here. And we're going to tell you how to do that as well. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Why should you contact Media Boss Club right now? Well, because you can get a podcast done for you. you can learn all the aspects that go into putting together a great podcast and have someone else do it for you. That's right. We will build your podcast around your content and make it so you can concentrate on the money-making activities of your business. Contact MediaBossClub.com. That's MediaBossClub.com today, and let us get your podcast started right now. Let's face it, you've been talking about starting a podcast for quite some time, but you haven't started yet. Why is that? Could it be that you just don't have the time because your day-to-day keeps you so busy? Or could it be that you don't want to learn all the technical aspects that go into putting together a quality podcast? Well, at Media Boss Club, we take care of that for you. How would you like to have a done-for-you experience? That's right. At Media Boss Club, we build your podcast for you. We will edit your podcast. We will put in the music for you. We even put in commercial breaks that you can put your advertisers in. We will take care of all of the uploading to the great podcast platforms that are out there. That's right, we do everything. All you have to do is just right now go to MediaBossClub.com. That's MediaBossClub.com, and let us handle the heavy lifting for you. Welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. As I told you, all my guests are great, but Michael was fantastic because you need to get in touch with him because he knows a guy. Check out his streaming shows, check out his podcast, check out his book, check out his offer for you. He gave you something of no charge. You're going to get so much value from whatever he gives. I know this because I'm experiencing it myself. So I just want to tell you guys that. So before we go, if you guys are interested in supporting the Media Boss Podcast, check out our Patreon page, Media Boss Podcast, the Patreon page. You can check us out there. Also, I want to make sure you guys take advantage of what I just gave you. 5 ways to payingclients.com. Make sure you get your complimentary training, 5 ways to payingclients.com. I know we got some business owners out there and you want more paying clients, right? Well, that's what we're going to do for you. Also, if you're serious about becoming a media boss, if you have your business and you know you need to reach more people and you don't want to do everything that every other coach is telling you, you want to do something different, well, go to the challenge I'm going to give you. That's my Make Money from Media Challenge. Now, how do you get there? It's a 5-day challenge. You go to makemoneyfrommediachallenge.com. I make these very simple for you guys if you have notes. So go to makemoneyfrommediachallenge.com. It's a 5-day challenge. If you come in as VIP, you get special perks where you'll get a chance to ask your own private questions during the training. And you also get a chance to win some very, very special prizes we're giving out to our VIPs. Now, if you want to have your own podcast and you want our team to produce it for you, if you want to learn how to get us to produce your own podcast, text me. Text the word podcast. Text the word podcast. Very simple, right? To 929-244-4323. That's 929-244-4323. Text the word podcast. And lastly, we want to make sure you guys are subscribing to the Media Boss Podcast. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you download, make sure you share it with all your friends. And on that note, I only have one thing left to say, and that is, boss out.